Hi, students. How are you doing? Welcome to Nine Sim, and thank you all so much for all the love and support. Hope you all are doing great. So I came across this video, and this Palestinian woman was talking about how Black people went from being enslaved to now holding offices in government and all that, and being CEOs of multi-dollar corporations and all that. We are not denying that we have progressed to an extent, right? But then forgot to understand that everything about Black people is a struggle. They do not see this. That is one of the reasons why they woke up and said that we are privileged and refuse to speak up on what is going on in Black community. Sorry, what is going on in their own community when we are still fighting for ourselves. They do not understand that we are actually not free, that we are still fighting for ourselves. But it is okay for them to sit back and tell us that we have everything in the platter of gold, and we are trying to utilize what we have to ourselves. And sincerely speaking, there is nothing wrong. I mean, having everything. Like wanting some certain things for your community and all that. We have not even gotten to that because most of the things Black people fought for or have at this point in time are the things they fought by themselves. And all of it are all struggle. Must we struggle to get some certain things like even our own rights? We have to also struggle to get it. And all these people do not understand that. You know what? Stay good. Let's get into this video because this is really very interesting. Let's go.
Black Americans went from being enslaved in America and considered 3/4 of a person to now holding office in our government, being CEOs of multi-million-dollar corporations, Black-owned businesses, having careers in every single profession. All because they came together and fought for hundreds of years. With boycotts, protests, sit-ins, they freed themselves.
I guess it's on point that you're making this point in your video after the last couple of weeks that you've had. There are so many things wrong with this statement. An aspect that I would like you to consider is the amount of Black Americans who get murdered by police. I'm bringing this up not just because of the history of the slave patrol, but also because of events that happened this week. A judge decided that Breonna Taylor's killers, the cops, were not guilty, that it was actually her boyfriend who was trying to protect her. It was his fault. This judge was appointed by Ronald Reagan, who has been dead for many, many, many years, but this judge still sits on the court. And somehow you're asking people not to vote or vote third party.
People are learning, people are reading, doing their own research.
I would really encourage you to do that yourself, because not voting or voting third party is going to have long-term effects on this country.
Black Americans went from being enslaved in America and considered 3/4 of a person.
Yeah, but a fraction of your story of what you're saying, okay? But those type of opportunities that Black people had to go through, it was not given to them by a silver platter. My question is why we had to fight for something that was belonging to us when we were supposed to be considered as citizens of this country. To this day, Black Americans are always the alien and the second and the last crust of the bread. We are the black sheeps of every community, every sector. Even when people come and migrate in this country, we are still considered as black sheeps. They are told to stay away from us, that we're inhumane, we're ignorant, and we pretty much are very violent. Look how many immigrants that come here, and the first thing they do, they come and target against us and feel like, oh, they should not associate with us. And they believe that the Caucasian community is more superior than all the nations. We live in a society where it's a systemic racism happening to people of minority. They don't even consider Black people as a minority. No, for years. They will push the narrative to the Asian community, the Hispanic community, and separate also the indigenous. Because even some of the indigenous say that people of high melanin, of dark melanin, were not considered a part of their systematic. Okay, even though it was true, because it was dark-skinned melanins. They don't even consider the the freedmens of Blacks who integrated with Indians to be part of Native Indian. They have to turn around and approve it through their DNA, which is very sad. They make us believe that we only came from a boat from slavery when there was people of dark melanin living right here alongside with the indigenous. And there's history books that put that. Our history lessons are being eliminated and being sugar-coated once again. And they don't even want to acknowledge us. And we had people that were standing right here on the pulpit of the White House, allowing that situation to happen. We have a justice system that does the unfairly to us. They either put us in another plantation, which is Buck Plantation, which is jails. You look at the men and women who are incarcerated, and they later on every year, this man was incarcerated for 30 years for a crime that he didn't do. And he started when he was a younger. Because we're the biggest investment for this country when it comes to jails, giving us bad medication. We didn't even get compensation when they were giving us the Tuskegee experiment, when they were forcibly giving these men vaccinations supposedly and end up becoming they were syphilis. To this day, people who are victims of syphilis still has not been vaccinated because we had a president named Ronald Reagan. He claimed that doctors and even the vaccinations, that they cannot be ridiculed, that you can't sue them. Okay? Every single time when we're supposed to get reparations or even acknowledgments like they gave to the Asian community and even the Jewish community, and remind you, they helped the Jewish community from the Nazi party. And when they were in prison, when they were in camps, concentration camps, they turned around and gave a benefit of $20,000 to each Asian that was the victims of the prison wars that they had, and even had apology. And that took place in the Reagan administration. They also turned around and made sure they compensated and gave them loans and made them a part of the farming. Okay? While there was Black Americans that was pretty much had to fight. Just recently, they had slapped the government a discrimination lawsuit because Black farmers said they were not even breaking the bread alongside. They had to go to the Asian community to pretty much fight for their land and even fight for the significance of being farmers. And this is coming from this country. United States and the Biden administration signed a hate crime for the Asian community. But what about the hate crime of the police department that been doing alienation against the Black community? Just recently, Britton Taylor, her boyfriend is being accused to be the reason why these two oppressors of police officers, which came inside their house without a warrant and started to shot fire first. So they make excuses for these two men and claim that what they did was lawful because they had targeted and alienated a Black woman. And they were about to put a Black man in jail to cover up what they were doing. But because of social media and many people that voiced out that situation and said that this is not right. But to this day, they still blaming her boyfriend. So now he has to live with that for the rest of the life. But he knew that he was trying to help because he felt that someone was intruding. They went to the house unannounced. They did not represent themselves, and they started blazing. Then they claimed that they were looking for a warrant because it was drugs. This is how they label Black community people, that we're the ones as the distribution of pushing drugs. When the main person that was pushing drugs in this country, and just like what Nixon was doing, he was pushing smack and also making sure and also targeting drafting our men and women for the Vietnam War, which was a war that had nothing to do with us. Then Reagan was the distributor alongside with Bush and many others. Bill Clinton made a criminal reform to allow 16-year-olds with the help of his wife. And then you have Biden administration doing the same thing when he was a senator. So you say to yourself, every year they make tougher sanctions for Black men and women to go to jail because they feel like prison is the best investment for these private sectors, or they kill us. Okay? But remember, this was a country, like I said, that formed the Ku Klux Klan. Because after the emancipation, they started forming police officers and they started to make an organization of white supremacy to go around and lynch our people. We had a song that represented that. It was called The Strange Fruit. Billie Holiday got ridiculed because she was singing to the world that how they're lynching black people, even though it was supposed to end from 1935. So we go all the way from the 1600s all the way to the 1900s, and they were lynching people, because even slavery times they were lynching people. Okay? All right? Hanging them on a tree, dropping their blood, tarnish and burning them. And one thing I forgot, how come they never mentioned the Black Holocaust that was taking place in this country, which they were doing in the 1600s all the way to the 1900s, including the era when they had the concentration camps that was taking place in World War II? How come they wasn't talking about the alien and the cruelty when they were putting people in hot box and burning them to death? Okay? And how they did race wars of massacres. And then trying to lie and say that the people in the black community burned their own place down, when it was a team of white mobs going inside and being a bunch of vigilantes and was raiding the place and burning the place down. Tulsa and Oklahoma didn't even receive their compensation. And they've been telling the truth and telling their story from 100 years. But the people in the Osage tribes received the movie, and come to find out that they later on got compensated and got acknowledged through a book, okay, and through a movie, okay? And that era took place 1 year before the Tulsa, Oklahoma. But you had Biden administration going back in 1908 and signing a bill of the situation that happened in Springfield, Illinois. Yeah. And come to find out, that was starting the forming of the NAACP, which is a part of the network. And it was supposed to be for colored people. But come to find out, every time when we have a situation, the WACP is never around. Never around. The only thing they did was give us an advisement not to go to Florida, because Florida is racist. But they never curved the mouth and justified when Ron DeSantis, alongside with Grady Abbott and many of them, and then they took away affirmative action that we fought for, right? And took it from higher learning, education, and even from jobs. And now we're considered as DEI. Okay? So the prejudice is still systemic in this country, and it's never changed. So I don't know, what was the presentation you were saying about us fighting in this? Yeah, we had to fight. And every day we have to fight. Fight for literally for something that's earned to us, because they feel like we're not entitled.
And another thing, if you as a black person don't want to participate in the system, then why are you complaining to me about it? Why are you talking to me? If you don't want to vote, why are you telling me about it? Why are you trying to convince me not to vote? Why are you trying to convince other black people not to vote? If you don't want to vote, don't vote. Nobody over here is going to try to talk you into doing what is best for you and your community. If you don't want to vote, don't vote. I'm just tired of listening to y'all. I'm so sick and tired of listening to you anti-black, non-progressive black folks complain all the time. You know the reason why it feels like voting doesn't help us? It's because not enough of us are participating to the degree where progress for us is so slow, being that we are cast at the bottom. If our vote did not matter, if our vote did not count, white people would not be trying to steal it all of the time. They would not be trying to create laws and draw lines in the maps that alienates or make our votes not count. If our votes did not count, Donald Trump would be your president right now. The only reason why it seems like progress is so slow for us is because so many people like you don't vote. You do not vote in your local elections, in your state elections, or in your general elections. We do not vote every time, in every election. And so, yeah, progress will be slowed down by that. Black people did not fight for and die for the right for us to vote, to have this voice, to have this say, if it didn't count. For you to tell other black people that it doesn't matter, I'm sorry. I feel like you're anti-black and ignorant as fuck. And I'm so tired of you going in my comments trying to convince me and other black people not to exercise our right to vote. Our right that our ancestors bled for us to have. You a weirdo. I really didn't want to do this TikTok. I don't have time to do it and I don't have the energy to do it. But I keep seeing these types of comments play out in my video, especially that video about Tori and Maya, that video in particular. And I keep getting black uppity suburban types in that video making excuses as to why it is you've abandoned your communities. And I don't need you to make excuses to me. Take your guilt trip, take your guilty feelings someplace else. Whatever your reasoning is for abandoning black people in favor of white people, that's between you and your God. I don't need you to come in my comments, and I don't need you to explain that to me, and I don't need for you to trash talk other black people in order to make yourself feel better about the fact that you don't give a fuck about black people. You don't give a fuck about black people. I accept that. That's why I've left you all behind. I've left you all behind. You all don't need to say nothing to me like ever again in life. Ever again in life. You in my comments talking about how black people trash our neighborhoods and loot and what we're doing to each other. What do you think I'm here for? What do you think these videos are about? These videos are about me and other black people. Censoring black people so that we can get back to loving each other. And if you are not interested in that, just go away. I am fine with that. Go away. Go embrace the white people that you love and that you support and who you have modeled your life and your existence after. Go ahead on, hold them tight, love them with your whole heart. You don't need my permission to do that. As a black person, you don't even understand that your people are the most lacking in resources, the most lacking in access. That our neighborhoods are not invested in. And as a black person, I know this, which is why I'm trying to gather my people and help them understand that we need to self-censor so that we can get back to that. And if you have no interest in doing that, again, fine. Stay over there. Don't come over here. We don't need you here. We don't need you here trying to gather up black people for the patriarchy that you have bought into. We don't need you here. Black people, we know the conditions are what our conditions are. And I also don't need to be told that not all black people live in the hood, not all black people live in ghettos, not all black people are poor. I know this. I know this. But here's the thing. If we as black people, if we do not create a path and an environment for all black people to thrive, particularly those of us who have the least, then what are we actually doing as black people? Stay off my page. Harriet would have left you, and I'm leaving you too.
So this is all I got from this video. And let me start by saying that a lot of people, I think they see black success, from far away. And they don't know how black people fought for or are still fighting for most of the things they have. And so those people from the outside think it was just something that happened overnight, or that we actually fought for it, we got it, and we are already chilling and we have privilege, because according to them, we are black people are privileged, right? Now, in this video she made, she said there are so many black doctors, black all this, that, I mean, they had slavery for how many years, and fought for themselves, and they are able to, like, they are, according to them, because that was what, all these Palestinian and all that, okay, Palestine talk and all that broke out all of a sudden. And then, I mean, it was because we are colonizers, and for that reason, we've been doing so many horrifying things. And because we're doing it because we are privileged. And the people that say we are privileged actually have been watching Black people struggle, and they never spoke up for a day. So because Black people decided that it's time to change or do something better for ourselves, they all jumped out from their, hiding places, and then became, like, we became their problems. I mean, became the pioneer, the source of their problem, the people that started what is going on in their own country. But then when you look like, what's her name again? Black Pearl, I think the second person that spoke, she was like, if you look around, it is so easy it is easier for every other person to get something than we. Literally, Black people fought for air. There is nothing they have today that they did not scream so loud for. They screamed so loud for it. They shouted, they screamed, they were all outside protesting, right? Because most of these things, when you tell people how Black people got their rights to vote and the rest, and also helped other people, it was because they did not keep quiet over what was happening to them and all that. They were very outspoken about it. Not just being outspoken, they were also doing something about it, and they were not waiting for people to come and help them to fight their fight. They went out by themselves. They did it, and you all can see. I am not going to tell you that our life then and now, irrespective of everything that is going on, we definitely can see that there is the fight our ancestors started with, there is a whole lot of improvement. But is everything over? Of course, you all know that it is not over. And this is something that will keep happening. And then each time we ask, must we fight for everything? It looks like everything that got to do with Black people, like, you must really struggle for it before you get it. I don't know if you understand what I am saying. Like Sister Black Pearl, how she talked about how everybody have been compensated, the Holocaust. The truth is that they have refused to talk about the Holocaust that happened to Black people. They are able to talk about the ones that happened, the other one that happened to other people. But when it comes to people that look like me, it is a change story because they don't want to talk about it. Then we'll talk about Tuskegee experience, syphilis, and all that. It is I don't know where to start and how to describe what happened as evil, because whatever happened back then was absolutely evil. And people not seeing other people as humans. Because how do you go to somebody and tell them, we want to experiment something on you, without telling them what you were experimenting on them? Tuskegee experiment. Then you started experimenting them without telling them. You were not even you said they were going to give them drugs to, manage what was going on, like the process of the whole thing. And it was going to last for a week or a month and all that, only to find out that you all were doing something else. Do you know how many people that affected? And the ones that died from it? Because it is your lie that you refuse to tell them what you were injecting them, only to find out that it was Tuskegee, syphilis, and all that. And then these people are the ones that will sit back in their back doors and now stereotype us over what they did. Everything is all our fault. And that is how it's been till this very moment. Now, like I keep saying, Black people have really worked so hard for everything they have. There is nothing that they have today that they did not work hard for. They don't sit back and wait for things to happen, because it doesn't happen that way. Is it happening for other people? Absolutely, it is happening for other people. Is it happening for people that look like me? No, it is not happening. We really have to struggle to make it happen. That's why each time when we talk about everybody fighting their own fight, and they tell us, we are sorry, it is not in our culture to speak out. It is in our culture to scream. And that is how we've been able to maneuver some certain things. For those that it is not in their culture to talk, remain where you are. I mean, this fight it's not for one person or one, like in a group of people. It's definitely for every other person. So when we talk about compensation, Now, what we'll talk about with everything that has happened so far, each time we talk about reparation, it looks like we are trying to steal from them. But these people do not understand how hard they owe people that look like me. And this reparation is something they definitely will pay. And that it's on period, because for people to look back in, it's really unfortunate that some people have refused to understand the history of Black people. Why? Because they feel like there is no need. Why? Because they feel like the only thing they get to hear is reparations, without even knowing why there is need for reparations. And each time we talk about reparations, we are not talking about reparations just for slavery. So many things happened while slavery was going on. So if we are talking about reparation, we are talking about collectively everything that happened to Black people. And each time I talk about reparations, and those that sit back and say there is no need for reparation, it means you do not see anything wrong with what you all have done and still doing to this very moment, and think it is okay for not to compensate them. You are part of the problem we are facing and all that. Now let's get into hate speech. You all already know that it is so easy for everybody to, like, if there is something happening in other people's community, they attend to them so quickly, like so easily, right? It is only in my community that we don't get to see anti-Black, what is it called again? Hate speech and all that. When what Jewish people said during what has been going on, they said that they started being discriminated in school. What did it happen? They got anti-Semitism straight up. I am sure that Asians have their own too. What do we have? Of course, we do not have. And when, the whole thing, when it comes to all this, it's not just something, it's a whole, one talk, we just keep bringing another one, and it looks like it's an ending topic, right? So to this very moment, do we have any hate speech bill? Of course, we do not have. So that's one of the reasons why when we come online on the social medias and all that, it is so easy for them to disrespect themselves, not my own people. It is very easy for them to disrespect themselves and get away with it. Why? Because there is no bill protecting us when it comes to hate speech, right? So now let's get into drugs, because all these I am picking out are the things people already mentioned from there, because sometimes when we talk about drugs that is happening in Black community, it's really quite unfortunate that these people really came all out for people that look like me. But it's only those that know and understand will definitely understand. I remember when I started talking about African American history, Black history, right? And then I started going into drugs. When I got into drugs, that was exactly when I found out how drugs entered into Black community. It is not something that just all of a sudden came in. The truth is that some people already have their plans when it comes to people that look like me, because why would you even be scared that a particular group of people would do better than you? And for that reason, you are thinking of how do I make everything about them to not be useful and all that. So that was how CIA planted drugs. And not just planting, how do you plant something in somebody's community at the same time send police patrol or slave patrol, what they call them, and CIA and the rest of them into the community? You planted it, and then you sent people again to go and grab the people. It's really, really, really disturbing that all this happened. And each time we talk about reparations, nobody want to say anything. But then Holocaust did not happen in American soil, but they got reparations. Then the people that built everything do not get anything. Man, it's a whole lot to talk about, and I am just going to cut it here. And I hope that whatever we are fighting, or for those that are usually outside, because most of them peep us through the outside, they don't understand what is going on in Black community. That was one of the reasons why when one of them, I think they said Pakistanians said that I am in America and I have free education. And the free education she got was because from Black people's tax money and other people's tax money that she is able to come to school there. And then she has the gut to say that I know that some of you do not know the laws in your community. Why? Because you probably do not know about it. Like, see you all in my next video. Bye for now.